Maya Johnson turned the steering wheel gently as she drove down the familiar streets of her neighborhood. The evening sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. She had just finished her shift at the bookstore where she worked 3 times a week after school. It was a Tuesday evening and the roads were quiet. Most people were already home having dinner with their families. She was thinking about the homework she needed to finish when she got home. Her history essay was due on Friday and she had barely started it. Maya was a good student. She always tried her best in school. Her parents had taught her to work hard and stay focused on her goals. She wanted to go to college and study law just like her father. The music on the radio played softly. Maya hummed along to the tune. She felt relaxed and happy. Work had gone well that day. Her manager had praised her for organizing the new book display. She had even sold 5 copies of a book she personally recommended to customers. Days like this made her feel proud of herself. As she approached the intersection near the park, Maya saw the stop sign ahead. She pressed the brake pedal and brought the car to a complete stop. She looked left, then right, then left again. There were no other cars coming from either direction. The street was empty. She counted to 3 in her head, just like her father had taught her. 1, 2, 3. Then she pressed the gas pedal gently and moved forward through the intersection. 3 blocks later, everything changed. Bright red and blue lights suddenly flashed in her rearview mirror. Maya's heart jumped in her chest. She looked at the speedometer. She was driving exactly 25 miles per hour, the speed limit for this residential area. She checked her mirrors again. A police car was right behind her, its lights flashing urgently. Maya felt her hands start to sweat. She had only been driving alone for 8 months. She had never been pulled over before. Her mind raced through everything her parents had told her about driving safely. Always use your turn signal. Keep both hands on the wheel. Stay calm, be polite. Follow instructions carefully. She turned on her right turn signal and slowly moved the car toward the side of the road. She made sure to pull over completely so her car was not blocking any of the street. She put the car in park and turned off the engine. Then she placed both hands on the steering wheel at the 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock positions, where they would be clearly visible. Through her side mirror, Maya watched as the officer got out of his patrol car. He was a tall man with a stern face. He walked toward her car slowly, shining a bright flashlight even though it was not completely dark yet. The flashlight beam moved from her license plate to her back window, then to her side window as he approached. Maya's heart was beating so fast she could hear it in her ears. She took a deep breath and tried to calm herself. She had not done anything wrong. She was sure of it. Maybe her taillight was broken. Maybe her registration sticker was about to expire. There had to be a simple explanation. The officer reached her window and tapped on the glass with his flashlight. Maya pressed the button to roll down the window. The officer leaned down slightly and looked at her with cold eyes. His name tag read Mitchell. He did not smile. He did not greet her. He just stared at her for a moment that felt much longer than it actually was. "Good evening, officer," Maya said politely. Her voice sounded smaller than usual. "Is there a problem?" Officer Mitchell did not respond right away. He shined his flashlight around the inside of her car, looking at the passenger seat, the back seat, and the floor. Maya sat very still, keeping her hands on the wheel. She wanted to ask again what was wrong, but she was afraid to speak. "Do you know why I pulled you over?" Officer Mitchell finally asked. His voice was hard and unfriendly. Maya shook her head. "No, sir, I don't. I was watching my speed and following all the traffic rules." "You ran a stop sign back there," the officer said, pointing behind him with his flashlight. 3 blocks back. "You didn't come to a complete stop." Maya's eyes widened in surprise. She felt confused. "I'm sorry, officer, but I did stop. I stopped at the intersection by the park. I counted to 3 before I went through." "Are you arguing with me?" Officer Mitchell asked. His voice got harder. "No, sir," Maya said quickly. "I just remember stopping. I always stop at stop signs." The officer made a sound like he did not believe her. "License and registration," he demanded. "Now." Maya's hands shook slightly as she reached for her purse. "I'm reaching for my purse now," she said clearly, remembering what her father had told her. "Always announce what you are doing so there is no confusion." She picked up her purse from the passenger seat and took out her wallet. Her license was right there in the clear plastic window. "Now I'm reaching for the glove compartment to get the registration," Maya said, moving her hand slowly toward the dashboard. "Move slow," Officer Mitchell barked suddenly. His other hand moved toward his belt. "Keep your hands where I can see them." Maya felt fear shoot through her body. Her hand froze in midair. "Yes, sir," she whispered. She moved very slowly, opening the glove compartment carefully. Inside were the registration papers, the insurance card, and the car manual. She pulled out the papers with shaking fingers and handed them to the officer along with her license. Officer Mitchell took the documents and walked back to his patrol car. Maya sat in her car, her hands back on the steering wheel. She watched him in her mirror. He was sitting in his car looking at her papers and typing something on his computer. Minutes passed. 5 minutes, then 10. Maya wondered what was taking so long. She had a clean record. She had never even gotten a parking ticket. The neighborhood was so quiet. A few houses away, she could see Mrs. Peterson watering her garden. Mr. Chen was walking his dog on the other side of the street. Everything looked so normal, but Maya felt like she was in a different world. A world where she was being treated like she had done something terrible, even though she knew she had not. Her phone buzzed in her purse. It was probably her mother, wondering where she was. Maya was usually home by now, but she did not dare reach for her phone. She did not want to give Officer Mitchell any reason to think she was doing something wrong. Finally, after what felt like forever, Officer Mitchell got out of his patrol car and walked back to her window. He still had her license and registration in his hand. His face looked even more stern than before. Maya's stomach tightened with worry. What was going to happen now? Officer Mitchell stood at Maya's window holding her documents in his hand. He looked at her license again, then looked at her face, then back at the license. He seemed to be comparing them, as if he thought the license might not really belong to her. Maya felt confused and worried. She had given him everything he asked for. Why was he acting like something was wrong? "This your car?" Officer Mitchell asked, even though the registration clearly showed her name. "Yes, sir," Maya answered. "It's registered in my name." The officer looked at the registration paper again. "You live around here?" Maya nodded. "Yes, sir, just 4 blocks that way." She pointed down the street toward her house. "On Maple Avenue." Officer Mitchell did not seem satisfied with her answer. He looked around the neighborhood, then back at her. His eyes were suspicious, like he did not believe what she was saying. Maya could not understand why. This was her neighborhood. She had lived here her whole life. She knew every street and every corner. "What were you doing out?" the officer asked. "I was coming home from work," Maya explained. "I work at the bookstore on Main Street. My shift ended at 7. "You got proof of that?" Maya felt her confusion growing. Why did she need to prove where she worked? But she tried to stay calm. "I have my work uniform in the back seat," she said, "and my name tag is in my purse." Officer Mitchell shined his flashlight into the back seat. Maya's blue bookstore vest was lying there on the seat, just like she said, but the officer did not seem to care. He turned his attention back to her. "I'm going to need to search your vehicle," he said. It was not a question. It was a statement. Maya felt her heart sink. She remembered the long talks her father had with her before she got her license. He had explained her rights to her very carefully. He had told her that police officers might ask to search her car, but that she did not have to say yes unless they had a good reason. He had taught her the exact words to say. "Am I required to consent to a search?" Maya asked politely. Her voice was steady, even though she was scared inside. Officer Mitchell's face changed immediately. His jaw clenched tight. His eyes got harder. He leaned closer to her window, so close that Maya could see the anger in his expression. She pressed herself back against her seat without meaning to. "If you've got nothing to hide, you shouldn't have a problem with me taking a look," the officer said. His voice was low and threatening. Maya's hands gripped the steering wheel tighter. She felt trapped. Part of her wanted to just say yes to make this stop. To let him search the car so he would see there was nothing wrong and let her go home. But her father's voice was clear in her mind. "Know your rights. Exercise them respectfully. Don't let anyone make you feel bad for standing up for yourself." "I understand, officer," Maya said carefully. "But I don't consent to a search of my vehicle." The temperature in the air seemed to drop. Officer Mitchell stood up straight and stepped back from the car. His hand went to his belt again. His whole body language changed from suspicious to hostile. "Step out of the car," he ordered. "What?" Maya's voice came out higher than she meant it to. "Why?" "Step out of the car now," Officer Mitchell repeated louder this time. "I have reasonable suspicion based on your suspicious behavior." Maya's mind raced. What suspicious behavior? She had been polite. She had answered all his questions. She had just exercised her rights, which her father said was not illegal. But she was scared now, really scared. Her hands trembled as she unbuckled her seatbelt. "I'm opening the door now," Maya announced, wanting to make sure he knew what she was doing. She pushed the door open slowly and stepped out onto the street. Her legs felt weak. She could barely stand. "Hands on the hood," Officer Mitchell commanded. "Feet apart." Maya walked to the front of her car on shaky legs. She placed her hands flat on the warm hood, the way she had seen people do on television. She spread her feet apart. She felt exposed and vulnerable standing there on the street, where she had grown up, where her neighbors could see her being treated like a criminal. Mrs. Peterson had stopped watering her garden. She was standing on her lawn watching. Mr. Chen had stopped walking his dog. They were both staring at the scene. Maya felt her face burn with shame and embarrassment, even though she knew she had done nothing wrong. "Where are you coming from?" Officer Mitchell asked, even though she had already told him. "From work," Maya repeated. "The bookstore on Main Street." "Where are you going?" "Home. To my house on Maple Avenue." "What are you doing in this neighborhood?" The question hit Maya like a slap. What was she doing in this neighborhood? She lived here. This was her home. Why was he asking her that question as if she did not belong here? As if she was some stranger who had wandered into a place where she should not be. "I live here," Maya said, trying to keep her voice calm. "I've lived here my whole life. My parents own a house 4 blocks from here." Officer Mitchell walked around her car slowly, looking in the windows with his flashlight. "You got proof you live here?" "My license has my address on it," Maya said. "You have it in your hand?" "Could be a fake address," the officer muttered. Maya felt tears starting to burn behind her eyes. She blinked them back. She did not want to cry. Crying would make things worse. But nothing she said seemed to matter. Nothing she did was right. Every answer she gave just seemed to make the officer more suspicious. "What do you have in the car?" Officer Mitchell demanded. "Just my work things," Maya said. "My uniform, my purse, my school books. Nothing else. No drugs, no weapons." Maya's eyes went wide. "No, nothing like that. I'm a student. I work at a bookstore. I don't have anything illegal." "We'll see about that," Officer Mitchell said. He was clearly planning to search her car even though she had not given him permission. Maya's mind was spinning. This was wrong. Everything about this was wrong. She had done nothing to deserve this treatment. She had not run a stop sign. She had been polite and respectful. She had only tried to protect her rights. But now she was standing on the side of the road, hands on her car, being treated like she was dangerous. "Am I being detained or am I free to go?" Maya asked. Another question her father had taught her to ask. Officer Mitchell's face got even angrier. "You're being detained," he snapped. "And if you keep asking questions and refusing to cooperate, you're going to be arrested for obstruction." Fear flooded through Maya's whole body. Arrested? For what? For asking if she could leave? For not wanting her car searched without a reason? She thought about her parents. What would they say when they found out she had been arrested? What would happen to her college plans? Would she have a criminal record? "I'm cooperating," Maya said quickly. "I've answered all your questions. I've given you my license and registration. I'm standing here like you told me to. I'm not trying to obstruct anything." But Officer Mitchell was not listening. He was walking around her car again, looking for any reason to search it. Looking for any excuse to take this further. Maya realized with a sinking feeling that this was not really about a stop sign at all. This was about something else. Something that had nothing to do with how she was driving or what she had done. This was about what Officer Mitchell saw when he looked at her. This was about his assumptions, his prejudices, his belief that a young black girl in a nice car in a nice neighborhood must be doing something wrong, must be someone who did not belong there. "Please," Maya said quietly. "Can I call my parents?" Officer Mitchell stopped walking. He looked at her for a long moment. Maya could see him thinking, weighing his options. Finally, he pulled out her phone from where he had made her put it on the hood. "Make it quick," he said, handing it to her. But he stood close. Too close. Close enough to hear every word she would say. With shaking fingers, Maya unlocked her phone. She scrolled to her father's number. She pressed call. The phone rang once, twice. Then she heard his familiar voice say hello. And that was when Maya felt the tears finally start to fall. Maya's hands shook as she held the phone to her ear. Her father's warm voice saying hello made her feel both relieved and more scared at the same time. She did not want to worry him, but she needed help. She needed someone who would understand what was happening and know what to do. "Dad?" Maya said, and her voice cracked. She tried to steady it. "Dad, I've been pulled over. I'm on Riverside Drive near the park." "Okay, sweetheart," her father said. His voice changed immediately from casual to focused. She could hear him moving, probably standing up from wherever he was sitting. "Are you safe? Are you hurt?" "I'm okay," Maya said, even though she did not feel okay at all. "But the officer says I ran a stop sign and I didn't. I know I stopped. And now he wants to search my car and I said I don't consent. And now he's made me get out of the car and he says I'm being detained and—" "Slow down, baby," her father said calmly. "Take a breath. I need you to stay calm for me." "Can you do that?" Maya nodded even though he could not see her. She took a deep breath. "Yes. Good. Now is the officer right there? Can he hear you?" Maya looked at Officer Mitchell. He was standing just a few feet away, his arms crossed, watching her carefully. "Yes, he's right here." "Okay, I want you to put me on speakerphone." "Can you do that?" Maya tapped the speaker button. "Okay, you're on speaker." "Good evening, officer." David Johnson's voice came through the phone, clear and professional. "My name is David Johnson. I'm Maya's father and I'm also an attorney. I'd like to ask you a few questions about this traffic stop, if I may." Officer Mitchell's face changed slightly. His eyes narrowed. He had not expected this. "This is a routine traffic stop, sir. Your daughter violated a traffic law." "I understand," David said, his tone remaining calm and respectful. "Can you tell me exactly what violation she committed and where it occurred?" "She ran a stop sign," Officer Mitchell said. 3 blocks from here at the intersection of Riverside Drive and Park Avenue." Maya's father was quiet for a moment. Maya could almost hear him thinking. "That's interesting," David finally said. "Because the route from the bookstore where my daughter works to our home doesn't go through that intersection." "Maya, what route did you take home tonight?" Maya's mind cleared a little as she thought about her drive. "I came down Main Street, then turned onto Riverside. I stopped at the stop sign by the park, the one at Riverside and Oak Street. Then I drove straight down Riverside. I never went to Park Avenue." There was a pause. Officer Mitchell's face got harder. "She's confused about where she was," he said. "Perhaps," David said smoothly. "Officer, may I ask your name and badge number?" Officer Mitchell hesitated. "Mitchell. Badge number 2847. "Thank you, Officer Mitchell. And can you tell me why my daughter is currently detained outside her vehicle?" "She was acting suspicious," Officer Mitchell said. "She refused to consent to a search of her vehicle." "I see," David said. His voice remained calm, but Maya knew that tone. It was the voice he used when he was building a case, when he saw something that did not add up. "Officer Mitchell, as I'm sure you're aware, refusing consent to a search is a constitutional right. It cannot legally be used as the basis for reasonable suspicion, so I'd like to know what specific articulable facts led you to believe my daughter was engaged in criminal activity." Officer Mitchell's jaw clenched. He did not answer right away. Maya watched as different emotions crossed his face. Anger, frustration, something that might have been worry. She was nervous, the officer finally said. Sweating, not making eye contact properly. These are indicators of suspicious behavior. "My daughter is 17 years old," David said. "She's been driving alone for 8 months. She's never been pulled over before. Of course she's nervous. That's a normal reaction to being stopped by police, not an indicator of criminal activity. Now, officer, I'm 4 minutes away from your location. I'm getting in my car right now. I expect my daughter to remain safe and for her constitutional rights to be respected until I arrive. Do we have an understanding? Maya felt a rush of relief so strong it made her dizzy. Her father was coming. He would be here in 4 minutes. She just had to stay calm for 4 more minutes. Officer Mitchell's face had gone red. Sir, I don't appreciate you telling me how to do my job. I'm not telling you how to do your job, officer, David said. I'm reminding you of my daughter's constitutional rights and informing you that I will be there shortly. Maya, honey, I'm leaving the house right now. Stay calm, stay polite. Do exactly what the officer tells you to do, but do not answer any more questions without me there. Do you understand? Yes, Dad, Maya said. Officer Mitchell, I'll see you in a few minutes, David said, and then the call ended. The silence that followed was heavy and uncomfortable. Officer Mitchell stared at Maya with undisguised anger. Maya kept her eyes down, trying to make herself smaller, trying not to provoke him further. Her hands were still on the hood of her car. Her legs were tired from standing with her feet apart. Your father thinks he's pretty smart, Officer Mitchell said after a moment. His voice was low and mean. Maya did not respond. Her father had told her not to answer any more questions. Thinks he can tell me how to do my job, the officer continued. Thinks his fancy lawyer talk is going to make a difference. Maya stayed quiet. She focused on breathing. In and out. Slow and steady. 4 minutes, her father had said. It had probably been 1 minute already. 3 more to go. You know what I think? Officer Mitchell said, moving closer to where Maya stood. I think you and your father think you're better than everyone else. Think the rules don't apply to you. Is that it? Maya's heart pounded. She wanted to say no. She wanted to defend herself and her father. But she remembered her father's instructions. Do not answer any more questions. Stay quiet. Stay calm. I'm talking to you, Officer Mitchell said, his voice getting louder. When I ask you a question, you answer me. Do you understand? Maya felt trapped. If she answered, she was disobeying her father. If she did not answer, she was disobeying the officer. She did not know what to do. Tears rolled down her cheeks, but she tried to keep her breathing steady. Down the street, Maya heard a car approaching. She prayed it was her father. Please let it be him. Please let this be over. But the car drove past without stopping. Not her father. Not yet. Officer Mitchell walked around to the front of the car, standing right in front of Maya. Look at me, he demanded. Maya lifted her eyes slowly. She looked at his face. His angry, hostile face. You think you're special? He asked quietly. You think because your daddy's a lawyer, you can disrespect police officers? You think you can refuse lawful orders? I didn't refuse anything, Maya whispered, the words coming out before she could stop them. I've done everything you asked. Except consent to the search, Officer Mitchell shot back. That's my right, Maya said, her voice still quiet but a little stronger now. My father taught me about my rights. Your rights, Officer Mitchell repeated like the words tasted bad in his mouth. Let me tell you something about rights. Rights don't matter much when you're sitting in the back of a police car, do they? The threat was clear. Maya felt cold all over despite the warm evening air. Was he really going to arrest her for what? She had not done anything wrong. She had been polite. She had cooperated. She had just said no to a search, which was her legal right. Another car came down the street. This time it slowed down. Maya's heart leaped with hope. The car pulled up behind Officer Mitchell's patrol car. Maya recognized it immediately. Her father's silver sedan. He was here. Finally, he was here. David Johnson got out of his car quickly but moved with purpose, not panic. He was a tall man with gray at his temples, wearing the casual clothes he wore at home in the evenings. But even in jeans and a polo shirt, he had the presence of someone who commanded respect. He walked toward them with confidence, his eyes taking in everything. The position of Maya's hands on the car, the tears on her face, the aggressive stance of Officer Mitchell. Maya, are you hurt? He asked first. No, Dad, Maya said. Her voice sounded so small. David nodded, then turned his full attention to Officer Mitchell. He pulled out his wallet and removed a business card, handing it to the officer. Officer Mitchell took it, looking down at the card. Maya saw his expression change as he read it. David Johnson, attorney at law, specializing in civil rights and police misconduct. The air seemed to shift. Officer Mitchell's aggressive posture softened slightly. His hand dropped from near his belt. He stood up a little straighter. like he was suddenly aware he was being watched and evaluated. "Officer Mitchell," David said, his voice calm but firm. "I'd like to know why my daughter is still detained outside her vehicle." David Johnson stood on the sidewalk, his business card in Officer Mitchell's hand. The officer looked at the card again, then at David, then at Maya, who was still standing with her hands on the hood of her car. The anger that had been so clear on Officer Mitchell's face a moment ago was now mixed with something else. Something that looked like worry. "Your daughter was stopped for a traffic violation," Officer Mitchell said. His voice was different now. Less aggressive, more careful. "Yes, you mentioned that on the phone," David said. "A stop sign violation at Riverside and Park Avenue. Is that correct?" Officer Mitchell nodded. "That's right." "And what time did this violation occur?" The officer hesitated. "About 15 minutes ago." David pulled out his phone and looked at the time. "So around 7:20? Maya, what time did you leave work?" 7 o'clock, Maya answered, grateful to hear her father's steady voice. "Right when my shift ended." David nodded, still looking at his phone. He tapped on something, studying the screen. "The bookstore's on Main Street. It's a 12-minute drive from there to our house." "Maya, describe your route home for me." Maya took a breath, trying to remember every turn. "I left the bookstore and turned right onto Main Street. I drove down Main until I got to Riverside Drive. Then I turned left onto Riverside. I stopped at the stop sign at Riverside and Oak Street by the park. Then I drove straight down Riverside. That's when I saw the police lights behind me." David looked at Officer Mitchell. "Officer, the intersection you mentioned, Riverside and Park Avenue, is not on the route my daughter just described. In fact, it's 3 blocks in the opposite direction. Can you explain how my daughter ran a stop sign at an intersection she never drove through?" Officer Mitchell's face grew red again. "She must be confused about her route." "My daughter drives this route 3 times a week," David said calmly. "She's driven it for 8 months. I don't think she's confused. But let's set that aside for a moment. You said you pulled her over about 15 minutes ago. That means you've detained her for 15 minutes. Can you tell me what you've been doing during that time?" "Running her license and registration," Officer Mitchell said. "Standard procedure. 15 minutes to run a license and registration," David repeated. "That seems excessive. Did you find any issues with her documents?" "No." "Any warrants? Any flags in the system?" "No." "So her license is valid, her registration is current, and she has no outstanding issues," David said. It was not a question. It was a statement of fact. Yet she's still standing here outside her vehicle with her hands on the hood. "Why is that?" Officer Mitchell shifted his weight. "She refused to consent to a search." David's expression did not change, but Maya knew her father well enough to see the flash of controlled anger in his eyes. "Officer Mitchell, I'm sure you're aware that refusing consent to a search is not a crime. It's not a reasonable basis for suspicion. It's a constitutional right guaranteed by the Fourth Amendment. So I'll ask again, what specific articulable facts gave you reasonable suspicion that my daughter was engaged in criminal activity?" The officer's jaw clenched. She was nervous, acting suspiciously. "Many people are nervous when they're pulled over," David said. "That's a normal human response, not probable cause." "What else?" Officer Mitchell did not answer. He looked down at the business card still in his hand. "Let me ask you something else," David continued. "Did you ask my daughter what she was doing in this neighborhood?" Maya watched the officer's face. She saw the moment he realized he had made a mistake. "I might have asked her that," he admitted. "You might have," David repeated. "Officer Mitchell, my daughter lives in this neighborhood. She's lived here her entire life. I've owned a house 4 blocks from here for 15 years. Why would you ask her what she's doing in her own neighborhood?" "I was just trying to establish her reason for being here," Officer Mitchell said. But his voice lacked confidence now. "She was driving home from work," David said. "On the route she takes 3 times a week. In her own car, with her name on the registration. In her own neighborhood, with her address on her license. And yet you questioned whether she belonged here. Can you help me understand why?" The silence stretched out. Mrs. Peterson was still standing in her yard watching. Mr. Chen had been joined by 2 other neighbors. They were all watching the scene unfold. Maya felt embarrassed, but she also felt something else. Pride in her father. Pride in the way he stood up for her without raising his voice or losing his temper. "I was doing my job," Officer Mitchell finally said. "Your job is to serve and protect," David said. "To enforce the law fairly and without bias. Can you honestly tell me that you would have pulled over a 17-year-old white girl driving the same route, in the same way, and treated her the way you've treated my daughter?" Officer Mitchell's face went even redder. "I don't see what race has to do with, don't you?" David interrupted, his voice still calm but with an edge of steel. "My daughter was stopped for allegedly running a stop sign at an intersection she never drove through. She was detained for 15 minutes for a routine license check. She was questioned about what she was doing in her own neighborhood. She was asked to consent to a search of her vehicle with no probable cause. When she exercised her constitutional right to refuse, she was ordered out of her car and detained further. She was threatened with arrest for obstruction when she asked if she was free to go. All of this because of a traffic violation you can't prove she committed. So I'll ask you again, what does race have to do with this?" The officer opened his mouth, then closed it. He had no answer. At least no answer he could say out loud. David turned to his daughter. "Maya, you can put your hands down now. Come stand by me." Maya moved away from the car on shaking legs. She walked to her father and stood next to him. He put his arm around her shoulders and she felt safe for the first time since she saw those flashing lights. David looked at Officer Mitchell. "Here's what's going to happen now. You're going to give my daughter back her license and registration. You're going to decide whether you're actually going to issue her a citation for this alleged violation. And then we're all going to go home. Does that sound reasonable?" Officer Mitchell hesitated. Maya could see him thinking. He was trapped and he knew it. He had no good reason to continue detaining her. He had no evidence of any crime. And now he had an attorney standing in front of him. An attorney who specialized in civil rights cases. An attorney who knew exactly what questions to ask. "I'll need to write up a report," Officer Mitchell said. "Of course," David agreed. "And I'll be filing my own report with your department's Internal Affairs Division. And I'll be requesting dash cam footage of this entire stop. I assume your vehicle has a dash cam?" Officer Mitchell's face went pale. "Yes, good," David said. "Because I want to see footage of my daughter allegedly running that stop sign. I want to see exactly what happened. And I want to make sure that everything you've said tonight matches what that footage shows. If there are any discrepancies, I'm sure we can clear them up through the proper channels." The threat was clear. David was not going to let this go. He was not going to let Officer Mitchell sweep this under the rug and pretend it never happened. He was going to pursue this officially through the system. "I was just doing my job," Officer Mitchell said again, but his voice was weak now. "Then you have nothing to worry about," David said. "If everything you did tonight was proper and legal, the investigation will show that. But if it wasn't," he let the sentence hang in the air, unfinished. Officer Mitchell walked back to his patrol car without another word. Maya watched him go. She leaned against her father, suddenly exhausted. The fear and stress of the past 20 minutes crashed over her all at once. "You did good, baby," David said quietly. "You stayed calm. You knew your rights. You called me when you needed help. I'm proud of you." "I was so scared," Maya whispered. "I know you were," David said. "And you had every right to be scared. What happened here tonight was not okay. It was not normal. And it was not right." They stood together waiting for Officer Mitchell to return. Maya's mind was replaying everything that had happened. Every question. Every threat. Every moment she had felt helpless and afraid. She thought about what her father had asked. Would this have happened to a white girl? Deep in her heart, she knew the answer. She had always known that being black in America meant being seen differently, treated differently, judged differently. But this was the first time she had experienced it so directly, so personally. It hurt. It made her angry. But more than that, it made her determined. Determined that this would not break her. Determined that she would not let fear control her life. Determined that she would use this experience, as painful as it was, to understand the system better. To fight against injustice. To make sure that other young people, other black teenagers, would not have to go through what she just went through. Officer Mitchell finally emerged from his patrol car. He walked toward them slowly, holding Maya's license and registration. His face was set in hard lines, but Maya could see the defeat in his eyes. He knew he had lost this confrontation. He knew he had been caught treating her unfairly, and there was a witness and attorney who would not let it slide. Over the next few days, Maya's life returned to a kind of normal. She went to school. She went to work at the bookstore. But everything felt different now. She noticed things she had not paid attention to before. The way some people looked at her when she walked into stores. The way security guards seemed to watch her more closely than they watched white customers. The way she felt a little spike of anxiety every time she saw a police car, even when she was not doing anything wrong. Her father filed the formal complaint. He requested the dashcam footage. He got statements from Mrs. Peterson and Mr. Chen and the other neighbors who had witnessed the stop. He built a case piece by piece the way he had done in countless other cases throughout his career. But this one was different. This one was personal. 2 weeks after the stop, they got the dashcam footage. David watched it first, then called Maya into his office. "I want you to see this," he said, "but only if you're ready. It might be hard to watch." Maya sat down next to her father and he pressed play. The footage showed everything from Officer Mitchell's perspective. It showed Maya's car driving down Riverside Drive. It showed her approaching the stop sign at Riverside and Oak Street. And it showed clear as day that Maya came to a complete stop. She stopped for 4 full seconds before proceeding through the intersection. "He lied," Maya said quietly. "There was no violation at all." David nodded grimly. "That's right. He pulled you over with no legitimate reason. Everything that came after that, the entire stop, was illegal." The footage continued. It showed Officer Mitchell approaching the car. It showed him asking for license and registration. It showed him going back to his patrol car and sitting there for nearly 12 minutes before getting out again. There was no audio, but the video was damning enough on its own. "What happens now?" Maya asked. "Now we have proof," David said. "Proof that changes everything. The dashcam footage changed everything." David sent copies to the police department's Internal Affairs Division, along with a detailed complaint outlining every violation of Maya's rights. He sent copies to the local news stations. He sent copies to civil rights organizations. He made sure that what happened to Maya would not be buried or ignored. The response was swift. Within 3 days, a reporter from the local newspaper called asking for an interview. David talked to Maya first, making sure she was comfortable with going public. "This is your choice," he told her. "If you want to keep this private, we can. But if you're willing to share your story, it might help other people. It might create real change." Maya thought about it. She thought about how scared she had been that night. She thought about all the other teenagers, all the other black people who had been through similar experiences or worse. She thought about the ones who did not have an attorney father to help them. She thought about the ones whose stories never got heard. "I want to do it," she said. "I want people to know what happened." The interview ran on the front page of the local section. Maya's picture was there, along with her father's. The headline read, "Local Teens Traffic Stop Raises Questions About Racial Profiling." The article detailed everything that had happened. It included quotes from the neighbors who had witnessed the stop. It mentioned the dashcam footage that proved Officer Mitchell had lied about the reason for pulling Maya over. The community response was overwhelming. Maya's phone filled with messages from friends and classmates offering support. People she did not even know sent emails sharing their own stories of being stopped by police for no good reason. Some of the stories made Maya cry. They were so much worse than what she had experienced. Some people had been arrested. Some had been hurt. Some had been too afraid to fight back or speak up. But there was also pushback. Some people said Maya should have just cooperated more. Some said she was making a big deal out of nothing. Some said she was being disrespectful to police officers. The comments on the online version of the article were full of people who thought a 17-year-old girl being illegally stopped and intimidated was somehow her fault. "Don't read the comments," her mother advised. "People who have never experienced discrimination don't understand it. They don't want to understand it." 2 weeks after the article came out, the police department announced that Officer Mitchell had been placed on administrative leave pending an investigation. David explained to Maya what that meant. "He's suspended with pay while they investigate the complaint. If they find he violated department policy, he could be disciplined or fired." "If?" Maya asked. "The footage proves he lied." "I know," David said, "but police departments often protect their own. We have to be prepared for the possibility that the investigation won't go the way we want it to." But this time was different. The attention from the media made it impossible for the department to sweep things under the rug. The dashcam footage was too clear. The violation of Maya's rights was too obvious. and David's documentation of everything that happened was too thorough to ignore. 6 weeks after that night on Riverside Drive, the police department held a press conference. The chief of police stood at a podium and announced the results of the internal investigation. Officer Bradley Mitchell had violated department policy in multiple ways. He had conducted a traffic stop without reasonable suspicion. He had illegally detained a minor. He had threatened arrest without cause. He had failed to treat a citizen with respect and dignity. Officer Mitchell was fired. Maya watched the press conference on television with her parents. When the chief announced the firing, her mother squeezed her hand. "You did that," Angela said softly. "You stood up for yourself and there were real consequences." But the chief was not finished. He announced that the entire police department would be undergoing new training on racial bias, constitutional rights, and proper traffic stop procedures. He announced the creation of a civilian review board that would examine complaints against officers. He announced new policies requiring officers to document the reason for every traffic stop before approaching the vehicle. "These changes should have been made long ago," the chief said. "This incident has shown us that we have work to do. We are committed to rebuilding trust with our community, particularly with communities of color who have too often been treated unfairly by law enforcement." David turned off the television and looked at his daughter. "How do you feel?" he asked. Maya thought about it. "I feel a lot of things," she said slowly. "I'm glad Officer Mitchell can't do this to anyone else. I'm glad the department is making changes, but I also feel sad that it took all this attention and effort and fighting just to get what should have been basic fairness. Sad that so many other people go through things like this and nothing changes for them." "That's a very mature way to look at it," David said. "Justice is important. But you're right that one person being held accountable doesn't fix the whole system. Real change takes time. It takes lots of people fighting lots of battles." In the months that followed, Maya became more active in her community. She joined a youth organization that focused on civil rights and criminal justice reform. She spoke at community meetings about her experience. She talked to other teenagers about knowing their rights when dealing with police. She went to city council meetings to advocate for police reform. It was hard sometimes. Speaking in front of people made her nervous. Telling her story over and over again meant reliving that fear and anger. Some people still did not believe her, or thought she was exaggerating, but Maya kept going. She kept speaking up. She kept fighting. At school, Maya wrote her college essay about the experience. She wrote about how that night changed her understanding of the world. She wrote about how it made her want to become a lawyer like her father, to fight for people who could not fight for themselves. She wrote about how one moment of fear had turned into a lifetime commitment to justice. Her history teacher, Mrs. Palmer, asked if she would be willing to share her essay with the class as part of a unit on civil rights. Maya agreed. She stood in front of her classmates and read her words aloud. When she finished, the room was silent for a moment. Then her classmate Jordan, who was also black, raised his hand. Officer Mitchell turned and walked back to his patrol car without another word. Maya and her father stood on the sidewalk, watching as the officer got into his vehicle. The red and blue lights were still flashing, painting the quiet street in alternating colors. Maya felt like those lights had been flashing forever, like this moment had stretched into hours instead of minutes. The patrol car's engine started. Officer Mitchell pulled away from the curb slowly, driving past them. He did not look in their direction. He kept his eyes straight ahead, his face visible through the window, set in an expression that was hard to read. Anger, maybe, or shame. Maya watched until the car turned the corner and disappeared from view. Only then did she feel like she could really breathe again. "Come here," David said softly, pulling his daughter into a hug. Maya wrapped her arms around him and let herself cry. All the fear she had been holding in came pouring out. Her shoulders shook as she sobbed into her father's shirt. He held her tight, one hand on her back, the other stroking her hair the way he had when she was little and had bad dreams. "It's okay now," he murmured. "It's over. You're safe. I've got you." They stood like that for a long moment. The neighbors who had been watching started to drift back to their houses. Mrs. Peterson came over first, her face full of concern. "Maya, honey, are you all right?" she asked. "I saw the whole thing. That officer was way out of line." Maya lifted her head from her father's shoulder and wiped her eyes. "I'm okay, Mrs. Peterson, thank you. If you need me to tell anyone what I saw, you just let me know." the older woman said firmly. I was watching from the moment he pulled you over. I saw how he treated you. It wasn't right. David nodded at her. Thank you, Susan. I may take you up on that offer. Mr. Chen came over next, his small dog still on its leash. I saw it too, he said. I'll be happy to give a statement if you need one. That young lady did nothing wrong. Nothing at all. I appreciate that, David said. Both of you. It means a lot to know that our neighbors were paying attention. After the neighbors went back to their homes, David looked at his daughter seriously. Do you feel okay to drive home? Or do you want me to drive your car and your mother can come get me? Maya thought about it. Her hands had stopped shaking. Her breathing was back to normal. She felt drained and tired, but she also felt something else, a need to not let this experience defeat her. If she could not drive her own car home right now, if she let fear win, then Officer Mitchell would have taken something from her. She did not want to give him that power. I can drive, she said. I want to drive. David studied her face for a moment, then nodded. Okay, I'll follow you home. Take your time. There's no rush. Maya got back into her car. She adjusted her mirrors and her seat, even though they had not moved. She needed to do something familiar, something routine. She started the engine and took a deep breath. Then she put on her turn signal and pulled away from the curb. In her rearview mirror, she saw her father's car pull out behind her. Knowing he was there made her feel better. The drive home took less than 2 minutes. When Maya pulled into the driveway, her mother was standing on the front porch. Angela Johnson had the phone in her hand and worry written all over her face. She must have been calling or texting, trying to find out what was happening. Maya parked and got out of the car. Her mother rushed down the steps and pulled her into a tight hug. Baby, are you okay? Your father texted me that you'd been pulled over. What happened? I'm fine, Mom, Maya said, even though she did not really feel fine. I'm okay. They went inside the house. Maya sat at the kitchen table while her parents made tea. Her father was on the phone, already making calls. She heard him talking to someone at the police department, asking about the procedure for filing a complaint. Then he called someone else, a colleague who specialized in police misconduct cases, asking for advice. Angela sat down across from Maya and took her hands. Tell me everything, she said gently, so Maya did. She told her mother every detail she could remember. The stop sign she knew she had not run. The way Officer Mitchell looked at her with such suspicion. The way he questioned what she was doing in her own neighborhood. The search request. The intimidation. The threats. Her mother's face grew more and more upset as Maya talked. That could have gone so much worse, Angela said quietly when Maya finished. If your father hadn't been able to get there, if you hadn't known your rights, if you had panicked and done something he could have used against you. She squeezed Maya's hands tighter. I'm so glad you're safe. David came back to the table and sat down. He had a notepad in front of him and he had already filled a page with notes. Okay, he said. Here's what we're going to do. Tomorrow morning, I'm going to the police station to file a formal complaint with Internal Affairs. I'm going to request all documentation related to the stop. That includes Officer Mitchell's report, the dash cam footage from his patrol car, and any radio communications. Will they actually give you all that? Maya asked. They have to, David said. It's public record. They might try to delay or make it difficult, but they have to provide it eventually. And if the dash cam footage shows what I think it's going to show, we'll have proof that Officer Mitchell lied about where the violation occurred. What do you think will happen to him? Maya asked. David sighed. Hard to say. Best case scenario, he gets disciplined, maybe suspended, required to do additional training on racial bias and constitutional rights. Worst case, they do an internal investigation that goes nowhere and he gets a slap on the wrist. That's not fair, Maya said. He threatened to arrest me. He treated me like I was a criminal. And nothing happens to him? I know, baby, David said. The system is broken in a lot of ways, but that doesn't mean we don't fight. We fight because it's the right thing to do. We fight because maybe our complaint, added to other complaints, will create a pattern that can't be ignored. We fight because the next time Officer Mitchell thinks about treating someone the way he treated you, maybe he'll remember that there can be consequences. Maya nodded slowly. She understood what her father was saying, but it still felt frustrating. It felt like justice was a far-off thing that might never really come. Did I do something wrong? Maya asked quietly. Should I have just let him search the car? Should I have not asked if I was free to go? No, David said firmly. No, Maya, you did everything right. You were polite. You were respectful. You exercised your rights calmly and clearly. What happened was not your fault. What happened was about Officer Mitchell's biases and assumptions. That's on him, not you. But if I had just said yes to the search, it would have been over faster, Maya said. He would have seen there was nothing in the car and let me go. Angela shook her head. Or he would have found some excuse to escalate anyway. Maybe he would have claimed he found something even if he didn't. Maybe he would have damaged your car during the search. You can't second-guess yourself like this, honey. You stood up for your rights, and that took courage. They talked for another hour. David explained more about the complaint process, about what would happen next. He talked about patterns of police behavior, about systemic racism in law enforcement, about the long history of black people being stopped and questioned for simply existing in spaces where others thought they did not belong. Maya listened to all of it. She was learning things she had known intellectually, but had never felt personally. Her father had talked to her about racism before. He had explained that she might be treated differently because of the color of her skin. But knowing something and experiencing it were two very different things. I want to help, Maya said suddenly, with the complaint, with whatever happens next. I don't want to just let this go and pretend it didn't happen. David smiled at her. It was a sad smile, but also a proud one. I was hoping you'd say that. Because your voice is the most important one in this. You're the one who experienced it. You're the one who can tell people what it felt like to be treated that way. Thank you for sharing that, Jordan said. My brother got pulled over last year and the cop searched his car even though he said no. Nothing happened to that cop. My brother was too scared to file a complaint. But hearing your story makes me think maybe we should. Other students shared their own stories. Some had experienced discrimination themselves. Others had family members who had. Some had never thought much about these issues before but were starting to understand them better now. Mrs. Palmer guided the discussion, helping the students connect Maya's personal experience to larger patterns in society. Maya realized something important that day. Her story mattered not just because she got justice, but because it helped other people feel less alone. It helped them understand they had rights. It helped them see that fighting back was possible. 6 months after the traffic stop, Maya was invited to speak at a town hall meeting about police reform. She was nervous as she walked to the microphone, but her father was in the audience giving her an encouraging nod. Her mother was there too, and Mrs. Peterson and Mr. Chen and her teachers and her friends. Maya looked out at the crowd and began to speak. 6 months ago, I was pulled over by a police officer for a violation I did not commit. I was questioned, intimidated, and threatened. My rights were violated. I was treated like a criminal just for driving home from work in my own neighborhood. She paused, looking around the room. But I was lucky. I had a father who knew the law and could help me. I had neighbors who witnessed what happened and were willing to speak up. I had access to resources that many people don't have. I want you to think about all the people who go through experiences like mine or worse and don't have that support. What happens to them? Maya went on to talk about the changes she wanted to see. Better training for police officers. Real accountability when they violated people's rights. Community oversight of police departments. Investment in communities instead of just more policing. She spoke for 10 minutes, her voice getting stronger and more confident as she went on. When she finished, the room erupted in applause. People stood up. Maya felt tears in her eyes, but they were different from the tears she had cried that night on Riverside Drive. These were tears of pride, tears of hope, tears of determination. After the meeting, several people came up to talk to her. A woman who worked for a civil rights organization gave Maya her card and asked if she would be interested in an internship. A city council member thanked her for her bravery and promised to support police reform measures. A young black man about her age told her that her story had inspired him to file a complaint about his own experience with police misconduct. As Maya drove home that night, with her father in the passenger seat, she thought about how much had changed in 6 months. She was not the same person who had been stopped on Riverside Drive. That experience had broken something in her, but it had also built something new. It had shown her injustice up close, but it had also shown her the power of speaking up. It had made her afraid, but it had also made her brave. "I'm proud of you, baby girl," David said as they pulled into the driveway. "Not just for tonight, but for everything. For how you've handled all of this, for turning something painful into something meaningful. I learned from the best. Maya said, smiling at her father. Inside the house, Angela had made Maya's favorite dinner to celebrate. They sat together as a family, talking about the town hall meeting, about the changes happening in the community, about Maya's college applications. Life had returned to a new kind of normal. Maya still felt a flutter of anxiety when she saw police cars. She still thought about that night sometimes, especially when she drove past the spot where it happened. But she also felt something else. She felt purpose. She felt like she was part of something bigger than herself. She felt like her voice mattered, like her experience mattered, like she could make a difference in the world. The following year, Maya started college with a full scholarship. She declared a major in political science with plans to go to law school. She joined the campus chapter of the NAACP. She volunteered with organizations that helped young people who had negative encounters with police. She kept telling her story, kept fighting for change, kept working toward a world where what happened to her would not happen to others. And sometimes, when she got tired or discouraged, when the fight felt too hard and change felt too slow, Maya would remember that night on Riverside Drive. She would remember the fear she felt, but also the strength she found. She would remember her father arriving and standing up for her. She would remember the neighbors who witnessed and supported her. She would remember that justice, even when it comes slowly and incompletely, is always worth fighting for. Maya's story became one of many stories in the ongoing struggle for civil rights and police accountability. But it mattered. It led to real changes in her community. It inspired other people to speak up. It showed that sometimes, when someone refuses to accept injustice, when they stand firm in the face of intimidation, when they fight back with the tools of the law and the power of their voice, things can change. Not everything, not all at once, but something. And sometimes something is enough to keep going, to keep fighting, to keep believing that a better world is possible.